Well, sorry, not sorry. I guess I just wanted to say there is a lot of information in these in this chapter, so that's why this lecture is going on a little bit longer. And the information tends to be very data driven. It isn't it isn't the type of information that you learn one fact and then kind of expand on that fact. Each thing that we've talked about is a different aspect or a different um, characteristic or way to look at muscles. So another way to look at them is, and sorry about that, sorry but not sorry, but I know this is going on pretty long, and I will try to finish up in as quick as possible. There's basically three types of fibers that they've identified so far, so fast, intermediate, and slow. And the thing about fast fibers is they contract very quickly. They have a quick response. They have a strong response. They tend to have a large diameter and lots of glycogen reserves. So lots of potential energy reserves. Glycogen is your stored form of energy that can be fed right into the Krebs cycle to make ATP. And create the ability for those thin and thick filaments to get together to create a contraction. Now that's a good thing, but unfortunately you have few mitochondria, and so these fibers fatigue quickly. Fast twitch, you think of sprinters, you think of people who run very, very fast short distances. Slow fibers are slow to contract, slow to fatigue. They're small in diameter. They have far more mitochondria and more vascularization with regard to more capillary beds per unit, so more oxygen supply, and tend to contain a type of hemoglobin, which we call myoglobin, that binds to, well, actually it's related to hemoglobin. It's called myoglobin. So it's a related protein that you find in the muscle, and that binds to oxygen. And so what that does is that by their design, they are designed for endurance. So with this, you can think of marathon runners, the slow twitch fibers, the slow fibers. And then you have the fibers that are in their intermediate or mid-sized, low myoglobin, have few more capillaries and fast fibers and slower to fatigue. So they're somewhere in the middle or a mix between slow and fast. Every muscle you have in your body has a mixture of all of these. But what you think about with regard to the fast and the slow, with fast you think of white meat, so the white meat on the chicken or the turkey, whichever. And then with slow twitch, you think of red meat with a slow twitch, and that makes sense because you have less blood flow innervation to those particular fibers. All of them are important for us, and all of them have a function with regard to creating that muscle contraction we need to move. We need to get it started quickly, and then we need to sustain it. So we have the fast, intermediate, and slow twitch fibers. Then on to cardiac and smooth muscle, the last two types. Remember, we started this with three types of muscles: skeletal, cardiac, and smooth muscle. And with cardiac, you do discuss this a little bit more in the cardiovascular system. Smooth muscle, you don't really pick it up again, but you do include it in many, many other systems. Cardiac is kind of unique, unique muscle tissue. It's striated, found only in the heart. And the interesting thing about the heart muscle is it is considered, it functions as one cell. So don't get me wrong, it's billions of cells, and you also have connective tissue and you have other types of tissue. epithelial tissue or endothelial tissue. But in theory, when you're thinking of the heart and its design, you're thinking of everything about the design is to make this heart almost function as one. And you have striation similar to skeletal muscle because the internal arrangement is similar. So the myofilament arrangement is similar. But unlike skeletal muscle, cardiac muscles have a specialized cells called cardiocytes. So cardiocytes, and they are small. They only have a single nucleus. Remember, the skeletal muscles are multinucleate. And they have a different arrangement with regard to those triads. As a matter of fact, they have no triads. They have a short, wide T-tubule. Remember that T-tubule is to allow the calcium to disperse throughout the entire unit of muscle fibers. Well, this T-tubule is slightly different. And they are almost exclusively aerobic. As a matter of fact, I think they are exclusively aerobic. They're high in myoglobin, so they're high in the ability to attach oxygen or bind oxygen, and they have many mitochondria. So they're high in the ability to utilize oxygen, high in the ability to make ATP with the mitochondria. They also have a unique feature. The muscle cells also have a unique feature called this intercalated discs. And what these discs are special points of contact between those cardiocytes. This creates a unique joining of the cell membranes of adjacent cells, cardiocyte cells, and this gives the whole unit structure and enhances and even gives the ability for the electrical conduction to be passed from cell to cell simultaneously. And so far, everything about the design is to support that idea that this heart is acting all as one unit. That ability to act as one unit due to these discs conducts the action potential throughout the whole heart unit in the literal beat of a heart, The discs are link the heart mechanically, certainly with the cells together, link the heart chemically, and link the heart electrically. So mechanically with regard to the cells, chemically with regard to calcium and ions, and electrically again because that electrical impulse is dependent on the change in electrical poles as it moves along, so that polarity as it moves along. And that ultimately, all of that together is what allows this heart muscle to work as a unit. And I think I have another heart picture, so I'll move on to the discs, and you can see the discs here, and allow that to function as a trying to think of a fused mass of cells. That's what your book says, a fused mass of cells. The other thing about the heart is it has this property of automaticity, sorry. And that is due to, what that means is that the nervous system doesn't constantly have to stimulate it. It's not at the mercy of constant neural stimulation. And that's due to the pacemaker cells that you have in a particular portion of your heart called the right atrium. And that automaticity, I think I got it that time, has an extended contraction time, about 10 times longer than a skeletal muscle, and it also prevents any of those aberrations that we talked about, the wave stimulation, the wave summation and tetanic contractions. Those are not something that you want in the heart. You want the heart to be regular with regard to its contraction. No aberrations. Aberrations are considered arrhythmias when we come to the heart, when we think about the heart. And then it has a long refractory period. It has a long recovery period, and that in the heart, when you learn about the heart, you'll realize that works very well because it allows the heart to fill with that recovery period until it contracts again. Then the last thing we need to talk about, the last thing, is smooth muscles. And smooth muscles, not to leave them out at all. They're very, very interesting. Smooth muscles are very interesting, and hopefully we can get it done on this one. If not, we'll move on to the next one. With smooth muscles, they're non-striated. And this is an artist rendition of a smooth muscle. That lack of striation means that they have different organization than skeletal muscles or cardiac muscles. They do have actin and myosin, but that actin and myosin is not organized in a regular parallel fashion that you see in skeletal and cardiac muscles. Characteristics of smooth muscle is they have long, slender, spindle-shaped cells. They have a single nucleus. They have no T-tubules or myofibrils or sarcomeres, so no Z-lines, no I-bands, no H-bands, no M-lines, none of that, no sarcomeres. They don't have tendons, they don't have aponeurosis. Their fibers are kind of scattered throughout where you find smooth muscle, and they have thin filaments that are attached to things called dense bodies, and you can see the dense bodies here. They're kind of the lines that you see. Dense bodies, the lines are attached to the dense bodies. And they transmit, the dense bodies is what transmits the contraction from cell to cell. With regard to the smooth muscle, and this is the last slide, and I'm going to talk really fast to get it all done. You have multi-unit smooth muscle and visceral smooth muscle. And multi-unit smooth muscle are connected to motor neurons, but visceral smooth muscle are not connected to motor neurons, have their own rhythmic pacemaker cells between the two. Smooth muscle are found in your capillary beds, your digestive tract. You find them in your reproductive tract. You actually find them in all places in the body. And they work to maintain normal human activity, and they can be modified by chemicals that the nervous system secretes, like hormones, chemical factors, and neural factors. The interesting thing with all the differences in smooth muscle, and it looks like a smooth muscle would be a flimsy little thing. Smooth muscle can contract as strong as a skeletal muscle and can stay contracted as long as like a skeletal muscle. The thing about smooth muscles is they have this thing called plasticity, and that allows them to change in length. So if like skeletal muscle will contract and relax and stay the same length each way. Smooth muscles have this plasticity and have the ability to stretch longer and stay in a longer stretch or to remain shortened. You definitely see that in the stomach, where you have the stomach distended, maybe distended over time, then also have that literally that thing you talk about shrinking your stomach or expanding your stomach. We will see you in Chapter 11.